particular for that. I doff my hat to you, lady. I'm delighted to be part of this virtual launch of Bec Jessen's new poetry collection, Ask Me About the Future. UKP are also the proud publisher of Bec's first book, the award-winning verse novel Gap. And with this new collection, Bec confirms once again her slant-wise ability to capture readers' attention and keep a hold of it. The first time I ever met Bec in person, I was fresh out of a UKP acquisitions meeting and had the pleasure of being able to tell her that UKP wanted to acquire this new book. And her genuine surprise and modesty sums up so much about this wonderful writer. Much dedicated editorial development then ensued with poet Felicity Plunkett, and I want to pay tribute to the two of you for the polished and luminous final book that has emerged. The poems in Ask Me About the Future are a joy to read. They are clever and contemporary, sexy and moving, and so often sly and funny. Bec totally nails the zeitgeist and unpacks its ironies. There are poems about dating apps, queerness, mental health, same-sex marriage referendums, and riffs on TV shows that I've never seen, and probably never will, such as The Bachelorette. There is also a beautiful long poem entitled The Birthing Suite, which is an ode to sisterly love and to women's bodies and to intergenerational connections. I'd challenge anyone to finish that poem with a dry eye. Finally, I just want to spruik some well-honed skills that Bec developed over the course of getting this collection ready for publication. If you're a poet and need someone to rework a lyric to retain its essence but avoid paying an exorbitant permissions fee, Bec's the woman for you. Congratulations, Bec. This is an exceptional collection. Now I'd like to introduce two poets who will read from Bec's fabulous book and then who will pass for our official launcher for tonight. First up is Ray White. Ray is a non-binary transgender poet, writer and zinester. Their poetry collection Milk Teeth won the 2017 Thomas Shapcott Poetry Prize, was shortlisted for the 2019 Victorian Premier's Literary Awards and commended in the 2018 Anne Elder Award. Then we'll hear from Jared Brunstroop, who is a PhD candidate at QUT and was shortlisted for the 2019 Thomas Shapcott Poetry Prize. His work has appeared in Mianjin, Overland, Westerly, and elsewhere. And then the formidable Shastra Deo will officially launch Ask Me About the Future. Shastra was born in Fiji, raised in Melbourne, and lives in Brisbane. Her poetry collection, The Agonist, won the 2016 Thomas Shapcott Poetry Prize and the 2018 Australian Literature Society Gold Medal. But first up, here's Ray.
I think there's a problem with Ray. I'll just see if I can find Ray. What? Oops, Ray is muted. I'm unmuting Ray.
Oh, hello. Yes, I am muted.
You are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Lovely. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners and say that I'm reading these poems on the land of the Yagara and Turrbal people and pay my respects, and that sovereignty was never ceded. Thank you so much, Bec, for asking me to read some poems from your book and also some similar poems of mine in terms of the vibe of Ask Me About the Future. I'm going to first read Time Lapse, and then after that, another poem that I've loved for a very long time called Some Days. But first of all, Time Lapse. And if you want to read along, if you've got the book, it's on page 18. Time Lapse. You have left something of yourself unattended when the train plunges through a tunnel and you leap into that other life where you were held once. The double glass refracts a tilting sun, a burning both inside and out. Unchecked hope is a turning back. Do you recognize this person? Now you collect girls like loneliness, and it is not the future folding out beneath you, but an afterlife with a cold, clear no of her leaving becomes a lifetime refrain. And this one is Some Days, which is on page 65. It's like the sun never sets here. Endless horizons scarred pink. Home is a big screen TV and a 3-tier cat scratcher. Mum is always on high terror alert. March mornings for scraping ice off the windscreen. I don't miss the morning cold, or the way the wind always blows in my hair. People feed the birds here. Day-old white bread strewn across public lawns and public parks. Do you ever notice the way Mum never gives away at roundabouts? Or the way your little sister dances, like she's an extra in a music video? When she grabs your hand to dance, suddenly she's 18 and hitting the clubs with her girls. Do you notice the way it makes you feel? Like the daggy older sister who wears her hair too short and worries too much. Do you notice the stale, acidic scent of cat and cigarettes that is distinctly Mum's place? The way you can miss people even when you're with them. The way that visiting home can take you back a decade. You can see not how this place has changed, but how you have changed. Do you ever notice the way Mum's place is like a time capsule, yet to be sealed, never buried? So that's the two wonderful poems from Beck's new book. And I'm going to have to cover up part of the cover of this volume that I was in because it's got a boob on the front. And it's a poem that I chose to read because it's about queerness and coldness, which is very similar to Some Days. And it's in a volume called Erotica. And this poem I wrote is called Now Winter. I dissolve sideways. Snow-washed pine needles grip to gap flesh. Hibernation lips wintered to breathe back a fogged hush in your mouth. Kissing you was always the plan. Kissing you has always been resistance. An act of wet teeth performance art. Stepping stones through queer-soaked history. Please hold me down, hold me close as the world collapses concave. Breathe boldly and kiss me. Fill my lungs with our bones. Thank you. And congratulations again. I probably won't get to say anything after this or to give you a big hug, which I would love to, but congratulations, Beck. This book is absolutely fantastic. And I'm so proud to be able to help you launch it. And now over to Jared.
Thanks very much, Ray. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with you tonight to be helping Beck launch Ask Me About the Future. And I'm even more excited because I also get to share some of the poems from Beck's new collection with you. So I'm going to do one of Beck's and then one of mine, and then finish with one of Beck's. So the first one that I chose is a poem called Triage, which is on page 9 if you're reading along. And I chose this poem because it just really hit me the first time that I read it. You know how a poem sometimes just really hits you. And then each time I've read it since, it's affected me again and again. And I think it's such a sensitive and finessed, gorgeous, strong treatment of a really important theme. Anyway, so I'm happy to share it with you. And it's called Triage. The kind woman on the end of the line will say this: I have to ask. In the present, you wait. Yes, I was 14. Only one time. Yes, family. No, no one. The kind woman on the end of the line will notice the catch in your breath. That's okay, she'll say. I don't need details. But you will talk about these things one day. She will ask about your plan. Yes, I think about it often. That unwavering expanse of ocean, slipping quietly into the blue night. It's an exit strategy, you know. if it gets too much. Tread carefully here. You have to tell these details to the right strangers. Do not raise alarm with your blasé attitude towards your own death. Be cool. Smile while you talk. No, not this week. I guess it's been a good week then. And how to measure chronic emptiness. That's what this is, right? The kind woman on the end of the line will say, "You don't sound empty." Well, that's something then, isn't it? And what is sound anyway, but another diagnosis to unstick? The kind woman on the end of the line will ask you what day it is. Every day. It is every day. She will say, "Save this number. Call any time, but sooner rather than later." You know something about later. When there are no numbers left to dial, someone will be here for you. Those words echo into the past and future and ring untrue. There is no here, not for you. Okay. One from me. This one's called The Sportsman Hotel, 3 a.m. And Mindy Gill very kindly put this one in Peril magazine in the middle of last year. And it's a poem about being out and being outside, so I thought that might be nice at the moment. So The Sportsman Hotel, 3 a.m. The advantage of my position, he tells me, is that I can see every man is a vase to be filled. At this time of night, I'll half listen to almost anyone. The crowd in the smoker's cage is dwindling down to dregs. To be a man is to scrutinize all men and then lie about it. While he talks, the beer in his glass, liquid in a vessel, effervesces, untended. The last two mask for masks lumber off together, stiff-hipped and necked. The men here are no different, except to each other they promise ascension. I watch the Queen with a knife in her purse call it quits. Greek vase painters would sometimes include gibberish inscriptions beside the figures. Some say to dupe the ignorant. Others claim the vase painters themselves were illiterate. Tonight, I'm inclined to blame the treacherous alphabet. I'm leaving. You're right, he says. Stay empty. Stay beautiful. And so I'll finish up with another one from the gorgeous Ask Me About the Future. And this one is called After Brokeback. And I loved it for lots of reasons, but perhaps first because it spoke to me about the way that works of art, and in this case a film, can really become a part of your life. And in a sense, your response to them becomes so much more, I think, than the original artwork, and in this case leads to a whole other artwork that is beautiful and special and meant a lot to me. So, After Brokeback by Rebecca Jessen. You leave your denim shirt hanging inside my wardrobe. Yours, new, post-separation blue. What remains? Ghostly curve of your breasts, a single silvering hair. I think of sliding the shirt off, its wooden hanger, and bringing it to my face, running my mouth along the inside of the collar. I always loved that spot. Warmth, intimacy, heat, undoing, the buttons, the way you undid me. I think of sleeping in your shirt, waking to the scent of cinnamon and bergamot on my skin again. I think of posting the shirt back to you with a note inside the pocket. I don't know what it would say, something mundane, like, "Hi, smiley face, hey there, how you doing?" Because I know better than to speak my longings. I think of you not noticing the note at first, finding it there one day by happenstance, maybe on a day when you have resolved to forget about me. But you never find the note. You wash the shirt as soon as it's returned. You pull it out of the washer, surprised or annoyed to find the disintegrated remnants of your past still clinging to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Beck, for asking me to read. Congratulations. I am so thrilled that you're bold and brave and tender, beautiful and gorgeous and smart and funny, and above all, hopeful vision for the future is out in the world, I think now more than ever. Hopeful, brave, bold visions like this are exactly what we need. So thank you and congratulations. It's my great pleasure now to hand you over to the incomparable Shastra Deo.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks so much. I too am broadcasting from the stolen land of the Turrbal and Yagara people. I pay respects to elders past, present and future, and to all First Nations people here. Although colonial violence continues to this day, First Nations people have a long and unbroken history of storytelling that is essential to Australian poetry. Thank you, Jared and Ray, for those beautiful readings. I am so grateful to be here at Mission Control, launching Rebecca Jessen's first poetry collection, Ask Me About the Future. And I do wish we were doing this launch corporeally, our fleshy bodies looking upon each other's fleshy bodies in real time, real space, especially now during this period of grief over the loss of so many futures. Nonetheless, there's something apt for me personally about the digital nature of this launch. I was first introduced to Beck's work in 2012 when she won the State Library of Queensland Young Writers Award for her short story in verse, Gap. And many of you likely know that Gap was later expanded and published by UQP as a verse novel and is in stock and available for purchase at Avid. But I originally read it online in PDF form on State Library's website on a HP laptop so old it looked like a relic from the space age. My reflection hovering outside the white space of the simulated page. Past me wouldn't meet Beck until years into the future, but past me was adept in the now common act of cyberstalking. And I followed Beck's writing career for years online, witnessing, learning, and wishing I could write like she did, with wry humor and quiet tenderness, with the care and caution of the hunted. Gap was all urgency, all sweat-slicked palms, traveling towards a future that was not at all guaranteed. T minus the history of queer emotion until launch, history and counting. In 2016, about a month before we'd meet in real life, The Lifted Brow published an excerpt of Beck's piece, The Art of Breaking, online. Written as a series of tweets, Beck Jessen, aka @RandomShyPoet, navigates a family visit while referring back to her psychologist-prescribed fun activities catalogue. Fun activity number 56, spending time with a loved one. Number 179, thinking I'm a person who can cope. The excerpt ends like this. Beck Jessen, @RandomShyPoet, tweets, while number 115 chatting on the internet, my girlfriend says, if either of us fell for someone else, we shouldn't stand in each other's way. Is she, number 168, fantasizing about the future? All systems are go. The future isn't what it used to be. When did it switch from being a promise to a threat? Ask Me About the Future teeters along this edge of ideal and collapse, refiguring the interpersonal to be just as vital as the societal. Desire is yearning, is longing, is prolonging, always reaching out towards utopia. I'm struck by how often Beck's work mediates desire, being, and vulnerability through the lens of technology, the device or the screen. In Ask Me About the Future, a speaker filters out the dating app simulacra of her ex-lover. The kind woman on the end of the line will ask you what day it is. On camera, the lesbian Bachelorette and her suitors exude big dyke energy. A life becomes a 12-episode Netflix series that no one binge watches. Everything loading in the foreground exists for the first time, says the speaker of the poem Family Domestic. The future pixelates before you. But technology doesn't imply or offer distance, nor does it preclude the deeply intimate entanglement of the queer body. In part 5 of the poem, The Lesbian Bachelorette, Piece to Camera, the straight male producer interviewing behind the camera is wearing a t-shirt with the print, "Dip me in honey and throw me to the lesbians." How do lesbians actually have sex? They go all in. But which of you is the man? Sometimes we both wear the harness. What does a lesbian bring to the second single date? A U-Haul full of feelings just waiting to be processed. What do you get when you put 16 lesbians in a house together? A lot of energy exchanges, IKEA catalogues, and an almost cyclonic urge to merge. Of course, there are those poems that step outside the screen to go all in, that occur some days, the weekly, sometime around midnight, digging into eternity, always at play with the temporality of the lived body. The moments captured in bedrooms, suburban homes, on train platforms that draw invisible thought lines all the way back to Beck's first book, Gap, that detail the scent of a lover's base, top, and heart notes with the drowsy warmth of a best-kept secret. To quote Zenobia Frost's Goodreads review, which in turn draws entirely from the Twitter bot Ask Me Oracle's fortunes, which in turn draws entirely from Beck's poems. In Australia, the poet will illuminate loneliness. The girls will feed the eclipse. Your work will moisten the full moon. And in your history, time travel will improve tomorrow. 3, 2, 1, ignition. In another time, the poet will heal loneliness. All of this to say, Beck is a remarkable poet and, more importantly, a remarkable person. For many years, her work has been the ice axe that breaks the frozen sea inside of me, the lonely transmission that rings out through deep space, deep time, the reflection superimposed over every electric mirror. We are all lucky to be here with her now, as pixels, as digital echoes, despite the distance. Buy her book from Avid, support your local bookstore. No launch, no screen, no moment can encompass the forever that is the future, but with Beck's book, you can carry a piece of it with you. All of this to say, Beck, there is nothing I would not give or do or leave or say to read this book again for the very first time. I'm sure in some universe light years from here, I am doing exactly that. There is nothing I would not give to assure your futures. We have liftoff. Ask Me About the Future launches into the infinite. Congratulations, Beck. And now I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Shastra. I feel like I need a moment to recover. It was a beautiful speech. Zen has prepared some tissues for me. I'm gonna be a boomer and open my Word document with Zoom open, so hopefully everything goes all right. I can't see myself, which is good. All right. I wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight. Obviously, I'm heartbroken that we can't be doing this in person, but it means a lot that everyone tuned in anyway. Thank you to Avid and Chrissy for hosting the launch and for continuing to come up with innovative ways to support local authors and interstate authors, especially at a time like this when we really need that sense of connection. It means a lot to be able to still hold the launch in my study as it is, but it's really nice to be here with everyone. I I might start by thanking Shastra, just to roll on from her incredibly beautiful speech, which I will be requesting a copy of, definitely. As Shastra mentioned, it's funny because in my speech I wrote about Shastra and I's origin story of, we were winner and runner-up in the Young Writers Prize in 2012, but we never ended up meeting at that time because Campbell Newman axed the literary awards that year, which was incredibly heartbreaking. So when there might have been a ceremony for the prize, there wasn't. So Shastra and I didn't meet then. It wasn't until 2016, and it was at Stuart Barnes's book launch at QPF, as it happens, that we met for the first time. Sometimes you meet someone and you know immediately that you understand some unspoken, implicit thing in each other. And I knew this when I met you, Shastra. Thank you to my family for figuring out Zoom and the many phone calls today to figure out how this was going to work. I'm really glad you could be here. I wish we were together. I miss you all very much, and hello. I want to thank UQP. There are many, many people to thank at UQP. Firstly, Aviva Tuffield, my publisher, thank you for your beautiful speech earlier. Thank you for taking a chance on me when what you received at first was half a poetry manuscript. Knowing that I had your belief in my work really helped me to get over the line, so thank you. Vanessa Palat, who was my project manager and in-house editor, you were so incredibly lovely and easy to work with. And a big thank you really for helping me through the treacherous permissions process. There are a lot of found poems in this book, and it was a struggle, I'm not gonna lie, but thank you for your patience and just being there to answer all my questions. Thank you to Jean Smith, who's my publicist, and also Katie Rowney, who I worked with before Jean. Thank you both for celebrating this book with such delight and enthusiasm. Felicity Plunkett, who I worked with on my first book Gap, was many years ago when I was so incredibly very green. Felicity is one of those rare people who just knows and understands and gently guides you on your way. I couldn't have asked for a better human to work with to help me bring these poems to life. It was such an honor to work with you again on my second book, and you know how much I appreciate all your assistance in life and in poetry, so thank you. I want to thank my readers tonight, Ray and Jared. Those are really beautiful readings of my poems and your own. Really, one of the best things about this launch was being able to ask some of my favorite poets and people to read alongside me. I loved everything that you read. I loved hearing those poems in a different voice, so thank you. I want to thank Sarah Holland Batt, who read early drafts of many of these poems during my honours year. Thank you for helping me to find some rare shred of self-confidence, and for being perhaps one of the first people to point out that my poems were kind of funny. I really appreciate that. To my many friends tuning in from across the country, thank you. As much as it was painful to not do this in person, it meant that people in other states could join in, and I'm really grateful for that. And I also want to thank the Brisbane poetry community for welcoming me into the fold so warmly. Lastly, of course, Zenobia Frost, who's guest starring in the room with me tonight. Thank you for continuing to remind me how to be soft, especially at a time like this when it's so easy to lose that soft edge. I'm so glad I'm in isolation with you. All right. It's enough talking from me. I'm going to read a few poems to cap off the night. It's really weird speaking into the void, but I'm just gonna go with it. This one, so all the poems I'm reading are in the collection, which you should definitely buy from Avid Reader if you haven't already. This one is called Vote Yes. It's a found poem. It was written around the time of the postal vote in 2017, which was obviously, for obvious reasons, a very difficult time. But I guess, as is my way, I tried to make light or have fun with some of the material that was being circulated at the time. So this poem is a mashup of a lot of news articles that were published around that time. Vote yes. We have arrived at the shouting dogs stage of a debate. This is precisely the sort of crazed response you'd expect from a dog called Mac. Sport is sport. Let the people go to the football and do who they want to do. Let the people eat their pineapple on pizza. It's un-Australian not to. I mean, for heaven's sake, homegrown heroes are delicate little flowers. The stupid clown in Canberra has a lifelong ambition to headbutt a blizzard of red herrings. Meanwhile, Pauline Hanson claims, I'm not a sexual person, but now I've got trolls. It's quite strange. I'm really interested in what the mums of Australia have to say about the sordid sex lives of bugs and slugs. Women soften the message. The two mothers cannot fill the vacuum, and I'm tired of them pushing their bagless Dysons in our faces. Make no mistake, it's in the bag. It's okay to say no to pineapple on pizza, but the average punter won't care. They've been captured by the juicy fringe of the so-called tropical agenda. Meanwhile, a clutch of conservatives is pumping sewage into a debutante ball on the most sacred day of the year. Mate, it's tantamount to a frenzied zealot wearing speedos. The love of pineapple is not equal, it's a sham. A pineapple is not a pina colada just because it wants to be. So if something like pineapple on pizza disturbs you or makes you fear this whole thing is about something other than a good-humoured debate led with un-Australian calm and restraint, enlist now to conduct a million robocalls and urge somebody to please think of the children. It's all nonsense, of course. There are queer kids killing themselves in the suburbs while a bunch of straight white men sing tinnies on a Sunday night. But it's a long time, thank God, since gay people have been discriminated against. This one is Prepare to Merge. IKEA catalogues stack up on our share house tables. We are the stock photo of couple cooking. There's something dangerous in the domestic light of a Sunday morning. The look is classic. You in your thigh highs, me in blue 501s. A lightly greased girdle holds you from behind. I'm packing heat in the kitchen. We play house while your housemate is elsewhere. I keep my domestic past folded squarely in my back pocket. The TV loops on the home channel. We swoon in unison at 12-foot ceilings and marble countertops. You knock out every wall and everything tastes better, butter slicked. I turn on the gas, but the flame never catches. This next poem is a little bit of a long poem, so hopefully got some wine or your beverage of choice next to you.
It's really not that long.
Another fan poem. This was written around the time of the total solar eclipse in 2017. Obviously, being a bit of a space nerd, I was really envious that I couldn't be in a position to witness the total solar eclipse, so naturally I had to write a poem about it. This one is called 11 Trippy AF Poems About the Total Eclipse. Warning, do not stare directly into this poem. Prolonged exposure to poetry may lead to lifelong poor posture. 1. You are traveling to where the sun won't shine. You are an eclipse chaser, paparazzi, voyeur, stalker. There's never been an event like this in human history. It would be advisable to observe the total eclipse where bandits roam wistfully. 2. Totality will last for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. At the very beginning of totality, you might squeal, shriek, or perhaps howl. It can be religious. 3. You can choose to resist, grab the sun, put yourself in the path of totality. Precision is crucial. There's no second shot at this. 4. Spying on the sun, someone in the distance shouts, "First contact, first contact." The clock tower silvers for the last time. A man yells at a cloud. Spectators do jumping jacks. Bonnie Tyler sings her final note. We will experience totality through a green screen. 5. Turn around. We have reached peak eclipse. 6. Breaking news. The total solar eclipse is cancelled due to Taylor Swift tweeting a gif of a lizard. Thanks for your understanding. 7. Taylor Swift just eclipsed the eclipse and people are freaking out. There is no totality here. The sun is never eclipsed. 8. Your lizard brain cannot be collected from the ground in the fleeting moments beneath the moon's surface. The sound is exhilarating. 9. Your first thoughts after totality. Unprecedented. Unlike any before, you can see it in the eyes. A very primal experience. A slow waltz. It was just different. Like a punch in the face, like being tickled all over. The light is blue, but not eerie. You know you're not snorkeling. 10. This is not the eclipse you were looking for. There's not meant to be a black hole in the sky. 11. Come. Join us under the shade of the moon, where vendors hawk t-shirts, and in the future, we will look back fondly at the pictures and say things like, "Remember when I survived totality 2017. It's inevitable. Humans will become a spacefaring society, allowing us gradually to eclipse the planet. Turn around, bright eyes, forever starts tonight." Got one more poem for you. I wrote this poem the day after QPF, Queensland Poetry Festival, ended in 2017. It was an incredibly intense weekend of poetry and socializing. She was very tiring and had a lot of feelings, so I put them in this poem. I'm sorry if I wrote about you. It's called 2.0. There's a sample of the future on the Sunday morning train, a platform of people on the bridge to Brisbane, and the smog stench of wellness. But what use is it to run, only to return? The grapefruit tang of Saturday night splayed on sidewalks, and haven't you already been here once today? Enjoy a latte among the regulars, where they serve hipster fries and heaven in a jar, and the failed date from the night before you're trying to ignore, the poet who only wants to talk about boxing, where every fight is the fight of the century, and the punter who says I didn't know poetry could be funny, and the man who is every man shouting in the foyer, I am oppressed, and you wonder if this is just another performance. What are you going to do? Write yourself gently into 2,000 years' time, where maybe one day someone will find these thoughts archived in the Museum of Earthly Frights, where you are a sequel, a 2.0 version of yourself, and the people who once knew you will look back and say, nothing beats the original, but I like you better this way. Thank you, everyone. That's all from me. Those are my poems. Thank you for listening. Thank you to everyone who helped me launch this beautiful book tonight. I'm really proud of all these poems. When I wrote these poems in the years, I guess from 2017 onwards, I was, I guess, in the process of becoming a different person, and I think that shows in a lot of these poems, and some of them are funny and some of them are dark and some of them are a little bit of both, and I think that sums me and the book up pretty well. So just a big thank you and so much love to everyone who hopped online tonight to help me launch this.
Yay! Thanks, Beck. That was fantastic, and thank you to all the readers who and the speakers tonight. It was such a moving event, and if anyone has any questions for Beck, now is the time to type them into the chat function. And while you're thinking, if you do have any questions for her, I just remember that before you had a book out, you were reading at one of my launches. Beck, this was many, many years ago. I can't even remember what book it was that you were reading at. You might remember. Do you remember? No, it's a long time ago. But I do remember thinking at the time you hadn't had a book out and you were just one of a bunch of young writers that was coming up through the ranks. And I remember how proud I was to have you reading at my book launch, and what a moving piece of work that you actually read out. And it's just been fantastic to watch your career, you know, as you've come from someone who was just starting out and now to have your second book out in the world. It's been really fantastic to watch you grow through those years. And I wish you many, many more books and many more years of growth ahead. We do have some questions coming through. So I'm just going to ask, this one's from Pascal. The wonderful Pascal. Oh, she's just saying, it's not a question. Sorry, I should have looked. It's not a question, it's a statement. Enormous congratulations from Pascal Beck. Lots of kisses. And there's a question here as to whether we can get signed copies at a future date. And I think the answer to that will be that we, Avid Reader, are hoping to instigate when the lockdown is over and we're all able to gather again. We're trying to instigate a festival of of COVID-19 releases. So we will have a chance to reconvene on a weekend when we gather people together to sit on panels to chat about how it was to have your book released into the world at this time, and to have those signings that we couldn't have in this virtual space. So we will actually, so Anna Waitley, we will actually do that. And we'll have a chance to meet and to sign each other's books, particularly the people who are, had their events changed to online events during this particular time. And are there any other questions before we finish up? What I will do now, I don't think there's any actual questions, so what I'll do now is I'm going to unmute people, which will mean that it will be chaos for the last 5 minutes as everyone speaks over the top of everyone, and the pictures just flash and shift around. So this is the last chance for us to say congratulations to Rebecca Jessen for releasing this book into the world. If you have a glass of something, raise it. We consider this book well and truly launched. I am going to unmute everyone and it will be cacophony, and then I'm just going to sign off. So congratulations, yay! Unmuting.
Hey.
Woo! Congratulations. Congratulations. I can't wait to get my copy.
Wait to read it.
Congratulations, Beck.
Well done, Beck.
Well done.
It's honestly,
You have to actually push something to talk or come on.
Oh, there's Zen. Hello.
Okay.
Is this for the poems?
All up there and for another couple of minutes so you can all just see who's online and chat to each other.
Oh, there she is.
See your book and light behind you.
What are you doing?
That's
Okay, everyone, that was fantastic. Congratulations again to Beck. And see you all later. Make sure, I'm just putting one last time, I'm going to put the link to the book. We do encourage
you want to say hi? Yeah, well, everyone's unmuted, but just put your head in. Hi. It says congratulations.
Congratulations, Beck.
That's cool.
Bye. Bye.
Just unmuted everybody. So.
Oh, I didn't? No.
No, they did. So we're just all like.
Bye.